Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and today I'm reviewing My Little Scythe from Stonemaier Games and the expansion Pie in the Sky. My Little Scythe is I guess, children's version of Scythe, one of Stonemaier Games' most popular game. I believe Wingspan is the most popular game, but one of their most popular games, and probably the game that brought them to fame to some degree, way, shape, form. I'm getting lost in this conversation already. Scythe is a game which you're trying to achieve one of a variety of different goals, and My Little Scythe, or not one, a variety of different goals. And My Little Scythe takes the core concept of having different things you're trying to go for, and having you go for 4 trophies in the game. 4 trophies you can achieve in a few different ways in this area control, not really area control, more pick up and deliver and other facets of the game that we haven't really gotten into. Let's go through the various things you can do as far as how you're trying to win this game. You can get 8 points of friendship on this track over here. If you move up this track on the side, you'll get 8 points of friendship and you'll get one of your trophies on that track. If you make a delivery of 4 gems to the center castle, meaning if you have your people gather gems, and if they will go ahead with their gems and they slowly but surely move onto the portal, into over here, into the castle, and they make a delivery, you give up those 4 gems, that's another way to get a trophy. You have the same option for delivering 4 apples at the same time. You have winning a pie fight in battle. That's going to be another one of the options. You have gathering 8 pies, tracking your pies up this track in order to use them in battle, or whether or not you use them, but to have them. You have accomplishing 2 quests, and then you have having 3 of these cards over here that will be used in the pie fights to augment the other pies you have. And finally, you have getting 2 power-ups. That's going to be from these stacks over here, and those correlate to the actions. That's what you're trying to do. A bunch of things that likely don't make that much sense to you, but the general idea of those things is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to get 4 trophies on 8 possible different objectives, and you're trying to do so before the other players do so. That's it. You'll be tracking your own trophies on your own little board here, so you have these 4 trophies, you put one up there when you achieve it, and then you keep doing that until eventually you get 4 trophies and you win the game. That's how you win. As far as the action selection, as far as how the game actually goes ahead, it's a combination of gathering resources, getting involved in pie fights, and accomplishing quests. To that end, on your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to take one of 3 core actions. You're going to inherently move your pawn from one location to another across this board, either doing a move, seek, or make action. A move action is you move your people either 2 spaces, or if they're carrying things, 1 space instead. So if you're carrying a bunch of gems, it'll take you longer to get to the castle, but at least you're carrying things and making progress towards that goal. Seek is going to have you choosing a combination of either one of those options of dice. So for example, I can go ahead and choose this and this and this, choosing that top action there, roll the dice, and this is going to allow me to distribute things on the board. So for example, I can go ahead and grab a gem and put it on a gray zone, which we'll do over here. I'll dump that down over there. We'll grab apples over here and we'll put one of the apples on the red zone because, well, not the red zone, we have, wow, that's a whole lot of gray. Whole lot of gray happening over here as far as putting these apples and things down. The relevance, I'm going to go ahead and shift this to be, let's say, that color so you can see something over here. We'll put down an apple on a gray zone as well, dumping it there to pick everything up. And then we'll go ahead and put down an apple on a yellow zone. And when I do so, if I put it down on another player, I get to move up 1 friendship point. So one of the ways you move up the friendship track is by giving things to other players when you roll dice. Lastly, you're going to have a quest token go out. The quest token is going to go out again on a gray zone. That was a very, very gray-centric situation over there. We'll put that out, and that's going to be a seek action. When you do a seek action, you're basically putting components onto the board, and you're getting friendship points for whenever you give gems or apples to other players. From there, you go to the make action. The make action is going to allow you to go ahead and make one of a few possible things. You can trade in 2 apples from any of your people holding onto the apples in order to get 2 pies on this pie track. You can trade in 2 gems in order to get one of these pie fight cards, which will be useful in battle, which we haven't talked about yet. And then we have over here trading in a gem and an apple to get a power-up, which are a whole stack of cards that will give you different ways to upgrade your core actions. So for instance, you can upgrade a make action in order to have a more powerful make action, and these are all a variety of different options here, giving you different ways to improve your core move and or make actions. You can't improve the seek actions, but these give you different ways to power up, to level up across the course of the game. And that's basically the action selection. You're going to go ahead and take an action, jumping back and forth between different columns, move, seek, make, move, seek, make. You don't have to do those. You have to jump back and forth from a new one to another one, so you can't, for instance, move twice in a row. You're taking those actions and you're wandering around the board. Now, wandering around the board has a few other elements as far as how it interacts with those goals. If you wander onto the central location, the central fortress, while holding enough things, you'll be able to make one of those 2 deliveries, either gems or apples. If you wander onto a quest, you're going to draw a quest card, which will give you a few options as far as different ways to get things. Share the news. Pay 1 gem to place any 2 apples, gems on an unoccupied space. Throw off course. Move any one seeker to its sibling sibling's location, leaving all resources behind, lose 2 friendship. Or no thanks, gain 1 friendship for visiting, return this quest face down to the bottom of the deck. Once you accomplish 2 of these, that's going to be one of the goals you have over here, the goal over here of accomplishing 2 quests. So again, you can see now how, and lastly, if you wander into a zone with another player, then you can go ahead and have a pie fight with them, where you'll be able to play one of your cards over here. You'll tuck one of your cards behind this screen over here, so you'll tuck one over here, and then you'll also choose how many apples, how many pies you are committing to the fight. You'll commit that many pies, you'll add it to the total, that's a total of 6. You compare it against your opponent, see who committed more, adjust your pies in the pie track, and maybe you just won a pie fight. And so once again, that's the core structure of the game, and let's go through those trophies you can do, so that will all make sense now more hopefully. You have 8 friendship, which you'll get by moving up the friendship track, by giving friendship to other players. Quests will also give you a way of getting friendship, as well distributing resources to players when you roll the dice. You'll have making deliveries to the castle, which involves slowly picking things up, and then wandering to the castle with your seekers. You'll have gaining 2 upgrades, which is an action you can take with the make action once you have apples and gems. You'll have winning a pie fight, which involves moving on to an opponent, and then either as the attacker or the defender winning a fight. You have getting 3 of those cards over there, which you'll start the game with 1, and you can use the make action to get more of them. You have quests, which you have to wander onto, and then you have pies, which you have to get to 8. You'll start the game with 3, and you can use the make action to make more. And that's it. That is My Little Scythe. Rinse and repeat until eventually you got to a point where you have accomplished 4 of those quests, and you win the game. Pie in the Sky, on the other hand, adds Pie in the Sky adds 1 new element to the game. It adds 2 new factions to augment the other factions. Now in the base game, the factions don't really have that much of a real difference going on. The expansion kind of introduces, 2 new factions to play with, as well as different airship aspects to the game. You now have an airship added to the game, as well as trying to get a 5th trophy instead. So now you're going to have a 5th trophy. So going back to over here, we'll add 1 more trophy off to the side. You now have to get to 5 trophies instead of 4. And we're going to put this C card over that C card, which is now whenever you roll the dice, you also roll an airship die along with your dice, and that will determine how far the airship moves. If you roll a trophy symbol, which is 4 of the 6 faces, then you'll move based on the number of trophies you have left in the game. So it gives you less flexibility the better you're doing, a little bit of a catch-up mechanic. But otherwise, you can roll a 6 as well, and if you roll a 6, you get to move this up to 6. You get to move this around the board to potentially wander to a space where it'll collect its own form of, it'll collect either a gem or an apple somewhere else, and you'll store that in its own individual cargo hold. You can have these cards over here that can be distributed to the players, either by faction or randomly or chosen or whatever method you want, and those will give you an ability attached to the game. So now you have different faction abilities added to the game, as well as the ability to get more resources with the airship, but also needing a 5th trophy to compensate for the fact that you have a little bit more flexibility. All these abilities give you some slight augment, some slight asymmetry to how your faction operates compared to other players, and that is basically what the expansion adds. It's Pie in the Sky. It adds an airship wandering around the board in different ways to gather various resources, along with asymmetric abilities. Which brings us to the review part of this conversation. Starting off with ease of play, My Little Scythe is a incredibly simple game to go into. I mean, this whole rulebook is a handful of pages long, very easy to dive into, very simple to play. The expansion is not also very easy because it's really just, we have our new factions and our painting guide over here, not a lot going over there, and we have a page and a half of using the airship and some rules around that, and then just some reminders from the base game to keep you up to speed. Player count, this is a 1 to 6 player game. I don't know if the expansion changes that. Expansion does not see, it says 1 to 6 players still. It adds new factions, but it doesn't look like it changes the actual player count, which makes sense because of the fact that around the board over here, you have specific zones where players can start over there, but it's a 1 to 6 player game. I've had this game for a while now. I don't know all the player counts I've played it at, but it's most of the player counts. I don't know if I've played it at 6. I've definitely played it at 2, 3, and 4. I may have played it at 6 or 5. I don't really know, but it works well at most player counts. It is a fairly fast-moving game, with the caveat that this is a game I primarily play with children, so it's fast-moving up to the speed of the particular children you are playing this with. If you play with the wrong children, this game can absolutely drag very much, especially at higher player counts. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking. Overall, My Little Scythe is a good abstraction of what Scythe is trying to do, while in no way really hitting the target audience of Scythe. If you're someone who likes Scythe, I don't imagine this is a game for you, unless of course you're segmenting that aspect of, I like Scythe in my game group and I want to play a game with my kids. This is a very family-friendly game, and it's cute and charming and has lovely miniatures. You can paint them if you want or have the time, and the game is very easy to understand while giving you some elements of what Scythe is trying to do. It gives you that decision space of different things you can try to do, of different pathways to victory. You want to pursue different things. If you overly focus on too many things. You won't really be able to properly get a good focus on getting those things done before other players. There's enough combat in the game for combat to be a thing, while also not so much combat that it's actually that much of a thing, which is true to its older brother. It's true to Scythe, the idea of the threat of combat being as meaningful as combat itself. The fact that you can get points for a trophy for having 8 pies means there's a reason to build up pies even if you're never going to engage in combat, but also once you have 8 pies, maybe engage in a combat or two just so you can go ahead and potentially win a combat and start getting another trophy that way. Making deliveries to the castle, wandering around the board, giving out resources to other players. The fact that the game gives you friendship points for giving other players other resources gives you an incentive to play friendly, which is great for a kid's game, for a family-friendly game. It really does a solid job of managing to give you a decent amount of agency, giving you a very cute game, giving you a game that is easy to teach, play, and very compelling and fun for people to play, while both establishing the degree of teamwork in the sense that you're giving players stuff, while also not being a cooperative game. It is a competitive game where you're also going to be in each other's faces, and it really does a good job melding the combination of working together while being at each other's throats in a very solid way for a family-friendly game. As far as what I don't like, not really a lot that I don't like if you're judging it as a family game. As a family game, in terms of what it's doing, it does everything well. This is not a game I'm picking out to play at game night. This is a game I am playing with my children, and that's basically it. Or, I don't know, children, nephews, nieces, that kind of situation. To me, this is very much a family game. It's not one I would play with adults. It is a lighter experience while still maintaining enough agency and choice to be compelling, but also that same aspect that I like, where it combines a degree of teamwork in a competitive game. If you're thinking about it critically from a strategy perspective, it's a little weird, the fact that you're playing a competitive game and you're choosing to give resources to other players at the same time. So it works well for being a family-friendly game, but I think that's where it caps out for me overall. As far as what I can see others not liking, it's a family-friendly game. If you're not playing this with kids, I don't imagine who you are playing with this. I think this is very much a family-friendly, I keep using the word family-friendly a lot this entire review because that's what this is. My Little Scythe is an excellent, compelling, very engaging family weight game, but that's also where it caps out. It's not more than that, it's not less than that. It is very good at what it does. Component quality, all those things, completely off the charts. And as far as what the expansion adds, the expansion is nice, but I don't know if it's essential. The expansion has a bit more pros and cons as far as what it adds to the experience, because the expansion adds this airship, which is great. It gives you a quicker, faster way to get a variety of resources, but it also adds these asymmetric abilities. I find these are probably great for someone who already knows the game, someone who already has introduced this game to their kids and doesn't mind introducing, hey, here's some new rules. Look, there's 4 of us playing. Here's 4 new rules to be mindful of, because that's what this is. The expansion is giving you a new rule per player until you get used to these, and there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of these, which is nice for the sake of variety, but takes away from the sake of the fact that how accessible this game otherwise is. And so I think the expansion is a nice addition to the game. I think it gives you a little bit more stuff you can do. I like the airship. It has a nice physical presence, but I think understand that it does so at the cost of a little bit more rules, which might not be the experience you wanted with this game. So while I can recommend this as a very solid family weight game, I think that the expansion is more of it could be a good thing for you, but it also might bring down the experience a bit depending on how often you're playing depending on how often you're playing the game, with whom you're playing, and how well they can pick up those additional asymmetric rules. As far as final thoughts on My Little Scythe and the expansion, this is one of those harder games for me to rate. Practically speaking, if I'm rating this as an adult game, I wouldn't play this, which puts it at a lower rating. As a family-friendly, kid-friendly game, I'll give this a 3.5 out of 5. It very much is a game I will play with my children, and I'll play it because I like it, but it's not one that I'm picking off the shelf myself. In terms of other games, in fact, this is a good segue to recommendations, because there are other games that are both family-friendly while being a bit more compelling for myself. And for me, I think I would go with Grim Forest as a good example there. I think Grim Forest is another great example from Druid City Games, from Skybound or Druid City Games, that manages to give you that family-friendly vibe while being a bit more compelling for adult-focused gamers, as well as Creature Comforts from KTPG. I think also does a fantastic job of being accessible to families while being a bit more compelling. Overall, My Little Scythe is a great game, but one that I am less in a rush to play, except for when my kids ask to play it. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this review helpful, and until next time, have a good one.